Welcome, everybody, to the Veterans Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Jones. This is coming to you from Sober Life Studios and, of course, sponsored by One Brother, One Sister. One Brother, One Sister, bringing training and information education to first responders and veterans, and it's only done through your support. So go to onebrother1sister.com and help support our cause to bring trainings on trauma, mental health, and, of course, addictions. To our people who have made it possible for us to live a comfortable, happy life. So let's give something back. Now, with that being said, I could not start our new show, Veterans Voice Podcast, without an old face. I'm saying old face because I've done work with Sam before. Sam Razmi, how you doing, brother?
Good. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Dude, it's great. It's great. We've done this. We did this a couple times before on different shows and talked about different things. Today, we really want to focus more, and thank you for your service as well.
Absolutely.
By the way.
Thank you for your support.
Yes, absolutely. And you brought along Matt Hirsch with you, who works with Banyan Treatment Centers as well.
Correct.
And you two, and you've been working with veterans at Banyan for 10 years, right?
I've been working with veterans for 10 years, working with Banyan for almost 4.
Oh, okay. All right. So you were doing this before. What led you to because I know you're not a veteran yourself,
Correct.
But something must have led you to say, I need to be a part of this.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. So I do have family members who are veterans and who did serve, and I've seen some of the trauma that they've gone through. And so really recognizing it, especially 10 years ago, it was a need that was really unmet. And so really trying to focus on getting the veterans the services that they need outside the VA when the VA was not able to serve them. And so it's become a passion, and it's picked up steam over the course of the last 10 years.
Yeah, it would almost seem like the veterans, because of the size of our military and everything that we do, the greatest military on the planet and in history, I'm sure, with all the different branches and the funding and the weapons and the trainings and all the things they have. You would think the Veterans Administration would be the largest second organization in the world, right? To take care of these guys. They do the best they can, but Sam, it's been a hard road for them too. It's not like they're not trying to do their best, but it's just hard. There's too much red tape.
Absolutely. As we've discussed on this previously, I totally understand what the VA is dealing with. They're always trying to implement new things to kind of cater and help our veterans, which is very commendable. But it's so large and understaffed, underpaid. A lot of these officials, VA officials, kind of get burned out from it. And when they're told, to kind of go a certain direction, but yet the veterans are crying for another direction, it's kind of a hard line to walk. Which is why people like myself, Matt, tons of other individuals out there, the best thing we can do personally to help these veterans out is to say, look, these are the policies, these are the procedures that the VA has, these are the services you can apply for, here are your benefits, and here's how to go about it. I mean, the biggest thing for me is spreading the knowledge, so to speak. You kind of give the knowledge to the vets to arm themselves with. Once they do go into the VA, they're not kind of like getting passed around from one department to the other department. And at the end of the day, kind of getting tired, like, okay, nobody's giving me a straightforward answer. I'm just going to get up out of here. At least they know what they can do.
I do have to tell you, I did a training at the West Palm Beach VA, the big one. It looks like a castle on top of a hill, right?
Great VA.
I got lost. In the parking lot. Then I got lost when I left trying to find my car again, because you got to go under the tunnel and through there and through. And then in the building itself, I mean, holy cow. Great facility, huge facility, but like you said, I mean, there should be more staffing and more ability to deliver the programs. But you guys have found a home where you can deliver services in the way you want to deliver them, right? Now, you've said you worked with veterans before. Right. What brought you to Banyan?
Great. I just saw a passion from the owner, really wanting to serve this population, and a willingness to say yes, because so often in the treatment industry, different facilities cater to kind of different populations based on what they see as business opportunities, and what they do is they open their doors for that type of population, but they don't say yes to the things that are needed to be done to serve that population well. And so when coming on to Banyan and speaking to the owner, I said, listen, I'm willing to come on to help. I said, but like, if you're going to do it, you should do it right. And to do it right, you need to hire the right staff. You need to do the right training. You need to train your staff. You need to hire veterans. You need to do a variety, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And I can give Banyan credit to say that anything that has really been asked for when it comes to helping veterans, they've said yes. And it's allowed them to serve the veteran population well. And listen, it's not a perfect program. There's no program out there that is.
No.
But
we can all retire when we find it. That's fine. And
absolutely,
very true. But they do their best, and they listen to feedback. Listen to feedback from me, but they also listen to feedback from people like Sam and other veterans who are face to face with the veterans on a day-to-day basis. And I saw that from the owner on day one, and they haven't let us down since.
You know, Banyan's been around for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
You're recently with them, and you're 4 years, but they've been around for quite a while. And they know the industry. They know the mental health and the addiction industry very well. They also knew going into this, you don't get rich by serving veterans. This is, in fact, most of the time, it's harder than it should be, and it's hard to. Some of the benefits in the insurances the veterans carry, it just can be a pain in the ass. You're not going to get rich this way. Why do you think they do it, though? Because I'm going to ask you, because you've been there a little bit longer.
Sure.
Why do you think they do this? Because they're making money in other areas. Why take this on?
It's just knowing the ownership. It's done for a variety of reasons. One, because it's an underserved population, and they're a deserving population, right? And so when you serve veterans, you can market that you serve veterans, and it is a good look for the facility.
Sure.
And so it's done strategically on the marketing side. But two, I think more than that, they're in it for the right reason. And I don't see that at all facilities. And yes, Banyan is a business and they need to make money.
Sure.
But they chose to serve this population along with many of the other populations that they serve that, quite frankly, can be really difficult. But it's rewarding. It's great for the community. It's great for the community when they do well. It's a great look for Banyan in the community when those people do well.
Sure.
And so I think it's for those reasons that they've decided to serve that population.
I got you. And Sam, you've been around the block, and worked different places and seen, we're not just talking about places that you've worked, but places you've seen. A lot of people go into this thinking, this is going to make them oodles tons of money, and they do it for the wrong reasons.
Absolutely.
And I know you're not attracted to that. So what made you attracted to Banyan? Did you see something that sparked that they were in it for the right reasons?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Being with Banyan, as you said, I've kind of been around the block. I've vetted other treatment centers, different organizations, nonprofits. And yes, there are a lot of people who are in it for the right reasons, and a lot of people who are in it for the wrong reasons. They see, what the VA pays, and they obviously want to chase the money. I'm very outspoken about that. As I'm sure
Yes.
I'm very much for the veteran, they come first. The one thing I absolutely love about Banyan is it's a no bullshit company. If we're a right fit for you, we're going to tell you we think we're a really good place for you. And by no shape or form or anything, by no means are we here to twist your arm and say, okay, you have to come to us. If not, you're lost. We give you the option. We'll tell you if we're not a good fit for you, like we think you should try this place or that place. But one thing I really do love about Banyan is our veterans program. Each facility has a military and veterans in recovery program there. A lot of it is run by vets. We have a lot of veteran staff over there. And depending on what the diagnosis is that you're going into treatment for will kind of dictate what facility you're going to go to. For example, like our Boca facility is a primary mental health facility. So we're not going to send somebody with a primary mental health disorder to a substance abuse facility in hopes that, okay, maybe, out of their stay, they'll get a few treatments or, a few sessions to address their mental health issues. They're going to go straight to a mental health facility. And if you're struggling with drugs or alcohol, you're going to go to that facility. So there's a huge diversity of what it is the veteran, first responder, individual needs. And they're going to definitely get that treatment that they need.
Well, let's talk about this for a minute, gentlemen, because, I've got veterans in my family. My grandfather fought in World War II, and the stories that he brought back, and, working in driving an armored car in the 43rd Cavalry, and
Ooh.
and blazing a trail across Europe. The stuff that he talked about was brilliant. I'm so proud. My brother served in the Navy in the Gulf War. My son served as a Marine. So I really care about the veterans and our active duty people, of course. But I don't think I even understand the special needs that are associated with veterans. I mean, up until a point, like you said, 10 years ago, it was barely a conversation. It was just starting. Now we're starting to be much more aware. I mean, before you just throw them in a group with everybody else. You weren't thinking about trauma, PTSD, or any other things that go on. So what are some of the real specific things that veterans need that other clients might not need? We'll start with you, Sam.
Okay. So speaking, no, that's a really good question. No, that's really great. And it's great that we have it from two different perspectives here. One's from a veteran myself, and one from, an individual who is a civilian who has the passion for helping veterans. And that way you can kind of see it from two different angles. Like, what is it that we can help, or how is it we can help this individual out best? Obviously, being in the military, you have that camaraderie, right? You have that big family orientation. And going into treatment, I will say, yes, there is a level that is really good to kind of be a little bit separated for the veterans to kind of have that camaraderie and have that team building again. So they're not kind of just thrown in the mix with it. However, it is also really good to have those individuals mixed in with civilians and, a different population as well. You don't want to have this little safe haven for an individual while they're in treatment. They kind of learn to start trusting people again. They're building that camaraderie again, and then all of a sudden treatment is gone, and then there's no accountability. They don't know how to kind of mix back in, transition back in with the population. So there's a really good mix there within our facility that, yes, you do have groups that are just all veterans, right? I mean, or active duty as well. And you can kind of talk about some of the stuff you've seen, some of the stuff you've done, and it's a safe place. However, there is a small integration with the civilian population as well. So you can kind of, once you do transition out of the treatment, whatever level of care you're in, and you kind of get back out to the real world, you are no longer, kind of like, oh my God, what do I do? You've already had that experience. You already kind of know what's to come. And about our place, I mean, I myself personally still stay in touch with, all the vets in Florida that come to our facility and just check in on them. Just because you end up leaving our facility does not mean, you're gone and forgotten about. We definitely want to stay in contact with you, see how you're doing. If you do fall, we're going to be there to pick you up. And if you don't, and you just, kind of want to stay in contact with us, pick our brain. How do I navigate the VA for this, that, the other? I mean, we have a slew of team members who are more than happy to help those individuals out. You're not totally forgotten about.
I love that, Matt. And you and I both, firm supporters of our military and our vets. You've been able to watch from a different perspective,
Sure.
So that you're seeing actual, where you can see the difference of a vet coming in, and some things that they need, they're a little bit different than what other people need. Right. What is some things that maybe, I mean, was there anything that kind of surprised you, or anything where you said, wow, I never thought of that?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the surprising part was, one of the surprising things was the fact that we weren't just going to separate the veterans and give them their own program or track, depending on the facility, but it was decided from veterans who are putting this program together that we're going to integrate them with the civilian population, not with all groups, but with some groups, because the importance of being able to get along with a civilian, or to be able to problem solve with a civilian, or to be able to, like, hey, if you have an issue with the civilian, how do you actually address that? And then you're going to be able to do that in a safe space in treatment. So that's one thing. Another thing was the amount of trauma work that is needed. I knew that there was trauma, of course, but the amount of trauma work that is offered and the amount of trauma work that is done inside of a 30, 60, 90-day window, or longer, even on the outpatient side of things, I was surprised how much was needed, and surprised that Banyan was willing to offer that too, because there's a significant investment that goes with being able to do that. You got to train your people, you got to do the courses, and you got to maintain those things over time. And you're doing hard work. Trauma work is not easy work. Trauma work is hard work. work?
Trauma work is a difficult thing
Mhm.
because, I mean, although you could say with most people who have suffered from addictions or even survived maybe Catholic school as a kid, we've all been traumatized in some way or another,
Sure.
right? There are certain traumas that are somewhat universal about you see things on, or things happen, breakups and divorces, death of a loved one. There's certain traumas, even some abuse issues and stuff. But when you get into a military trauma, and we see this with first responders as well, you can't just have anybody treat that. They've got to have a real understanding, because what you don't want your therapist to do is tell me this, like we all do with the military. We're probably guilty of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to hear the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about the story. It's about what happened to the individual.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're so busy listening to the story, we're not listening to what happened to the individual. So that takes real training to deal with that kind of trauma, doesn't it?
It does, yes. It's there's no easy way to put it. It's a slow moving practice with
Yeah.
it. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. I mean, we're talking, it took me years to even get comfortable to watch fireworks. It's not necessarily so much that, okay, I know things are going to go boom. It's just a secondary reaction to hearing it.
Right.
And more importantly, feeling it. So, like, for example, for me, my last deployment in Jordan, we used to get mortared all the time. Like, it was an every other day thing. And they weren't necessarily mortaring us to have casualties on our end. They were doing it for intel purposes, to see how we would react. So we would constantly have to change around our tactics on to, okay, if they attacked us, this is what we're going to do instead. So they don't know, okay, we're going to bomb over here. And then once everybody runs to the armory, now everybody's in one big area. We're just going to bomb the hell out of that place. And over time, I mean, you get so used to hearing these mortars, you kind of get lackadaisical with it. Like, okay, here we go again. But it's still that pounding afterwards, to where your training or your situational awareness is the best way I can put it, kind of really goes through the roof. And you're dealing with this high sense of, okay, like this could be life or death. And even though you're in a safe place, like I know I'm back stateside and stuff, but having very similar things, like I'll be honest with you, I can't even still go to certain concerts, like if the bass is really loud, and definitely if there's a lot of people around me, that's something I'm still working on, but it's really just your situational awareness.
Wow.
You're kind of, your senses are heightened. You're scanning around the area, and I won't even realize I'm doing it. My family will kind of point out and be like, okay, are you okay? Like, are things fine? And, it's okay to kind of remove yourself from that situation, gather your thoughts, and get back to it. But I think the important thing is to never give up on that. Because, I mean, the whole point is to get back to living a normal life, whatever normal can be. But it's really, the way I look at it is, it's really important to surround yourself with those types of individuals who are struggling with the same issues, and kind of leaning on each other when one can't, handle it anymore. Like, I'll be your rock for a little bit, and when you're having a hard time, and I know I'm going to have a hard time, so I'm going to have to lean on you as well. This is not an army of one type deal. Like we have to have each other to do this. And there are things that I can learn from all individuals. They don't have to have served in the military or anything like that. Like, there are a lot of things that Matt can tell me, a lot of great advice that I can get from him, that I'll be like, you know what? Like, I never thought about it that way.
Absolutely. And, don't feel bad, because there's a lot of bands I won't go to either, because music sucks these days. The classics, that's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
those are the good guys.
Matt, I love this idea of, you kind of have that core of, we're going to treat the veterans, but we're also going to integrate them into the other things. Have you experienced watching them connect with people that they wouldn't have connected with without that kind of experience?
Yeah, I've been in the facilities, not nearly as much as Sam has, but I've been in the facilities to be able to see them interact with some of the other civilians, whether it's a civilian who's a therapist or the civilian who is another client. Just being able to see them interact and be comfortable with that. I mean, I do know that there are stories and that I have not experienced personally, where like they've started out as really not wanting any sort of interaction.
Right.
But by the end of treatment, or by the end of the time, maybe meeting with someone like Sam or somebody else who has come in to do groups, encouraging them to go to different types of groups or encourage them to meet with different individuals, there's been breakthrough. So being able to see some of it, but also hear stories has been really encouraging. And I know that we're giving the veterans the tools that they need. When they're in treatment, but what's more important is when they leave treatment, and they need to be able to do that in real life.
I love that. And there's kind of I'm thinking something with people with addictions and alcoholism and stuff like that. It's kind of like you're walking and you're like, shit, I gotta create a whole new life, and I've got to do all of this stuff. And that's like a one whammy thing. But with the veterans, it's almost a double whammy, because, I've got my military life, and now that I'm a veteran, I've got to reinvent myself. And I got to reinvent myself because of the addiction and the trauma and the other things going on. So it's been a very long time since they've been in touch with themselves. Are you finding a hard time, or do they have a hard time, or am I just guessing, connecting with what they feel inside, like that inner child? I don't like the inner child thing. Let me say that different. Their authentic self.
Right.
Are they having a hard time finding a new identity for themselves?
Would you like me to take this one
Sure.
first?
Either one of you.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. So to answer your question, yes, that is probably one of the biggest things that I see veterans trying to overcome with. One thing that we really kind of hammer while they're in treatment, because you see a lot of these guys and girls come in and they're like, okay, when I was in the military, I put on this uniform, it stood for something greater. This was my identity. I had a purpose in life. And now that I'm not in the military anymore, and we're talking about a transition that literally happens overnight. You kind of go through a TAPS program your last 2 weeks, but you're still going on base. You're still meeting with everybody you need to. And then they're like, okay, tomorrow's your last day here. That day is over with. And then the next day there's no more going on base. There's no more, this is who I am. I myself struggled with that for years and years and years. Like, okay, I'm no longer in the military. Like, who am I now? Like, who is Sam? And the best way I can put it, and I have been putting it to veterans, is to say, look, that might define, you might look at it as a defining moment in your life, but that does not define who you are. Sam, the veteran, is just a part of Sam. There's also Sam, the guy that's in recovery. There's Sam, that's the father. And when you kind of hear it over and over and over from somebody else who's been there and has come out through the other side, a lot of these guys and girls who are in treatment, they're like, Sam, how do you come in here so nonchalant and be able to kind of put that hat down, like, okay, you're no longer in the military? And I tell them the same thing I'm going to tell you. Like, I loved everything about the military. Like, the military to me was a way of life, and I still carry that pride and lifestyle with me, but I don't let it define who I am now. Right. I can still, be the same guy now, like I'm able to grow a beard out now, like that's something I couldn't do in the military.
With the beard, you just can't,
and it's a great thing. And there are still mannerisms and things that I still carry with me from the military. But I don't have to let it define 100% who I am. That's just one chapter of my life, one chapter in the book that is done and over with. But I'm more curious to see, okay, what's the next chapter of my life going to hold? Like, what is going to happen later on? Something else could, hell, I could be a firefighter next week or something, and then take on that role. But at the end of the day, like when I'm on my deathbed, people are just going to remember me as Sam. That's it. He was just, he was, all I want people to say is he was a great father. He was a great guy. And, his time came. That's it.
Absolutely. The military and in the service is part of your story, but it's not the end of your story.
Absolutely.
And the joy in life is finding out things about yourself and things that you didn't know you could do, things that you didn't know you would like doing, things like that. And that's what I said. Matt and I, we would have signed up, but you took up 3 seats and we couldn't get it.
I'm sorry.
Because a muscle guy, right?
No.
He's big enough, he covered all.
Too funny.
Matt, you speak directly to veterans when they're coming in, right?
Some, not all, but some.
Some. What do you see as their biggest concern when they're coming in? Just from your experience,
right? It's similar to a civilian in a lot of ways. I mean, I think a lot of them are scared. A lot of them don't know, hey, what's going to happen next? How am I going to stay? How am I not going to drink, or how am I not going to use?
Mm-hmm.
Not for the next 30 days, but for the rest of my life, right? How am I not going to do that? How am I going to do the things that I need to do to be successful over time? Like, how can I go to a treatment center that's not all veterans? How can I do that? How can I address my trauma? Like, those are all the types of questions that I hear when speaking to the veterans. We're blessed to have a really good team that works with the veterans exclusively on the front end, that gives them the answers they need to hear to be comfortable. There are some of them are veterans, but some of them are trained to be with veterans, trained to work with veterans themselves. So, I mean, those are probably most of the things that I hear. But I think they're experiencing a lot of the same things that the civilians are. They're experiencing it a little bit differently because of their background,
Right.
but still they have a lot of the same fears, and trepidations about coming into treatment. And you just have to let them know that they're going to be addressed, and they're going to be addressed appropriately when they arrive.
I want to talk about Banyan Treatment Center and all the things that they do and how we can get them. But before we do, I just one last question about the veterans. For a long time, it was a whole lot of I'm in a firefight on Tuesday morning, and Thursday morning I'm getting off a plane and going home for dinner. And the transition was non-existent. It was like, you're done, go home or something. Are we doing better with that? And do we need more work on the transition for our veterans coming out of service, especially if they've got some sort of trauma or addiction issue or something? Do we need to do a better job at the transition, speaking just as a country?
Yeah, great question. I think the military is doing better. I mean, they're constantly learning, constantly trying to evolve, and they understand that, okay, the transition from being active duty to becoming a veteran is a very hard, challenging thing. Can they improve on it? Absolutely. I think
they're still basing a lot of it on self-reporting, though.
Mm-hmm.
They're basing like a great deal of it on self-reporting, and I'm sorry, but that's not good, because most of these traumas and things try to hide, and they want to keep them hidden.
You know, it's really funny you say that, because on my way here, I was just speaking with a veteran who brought this very same thing up. So he's an older gentleman, has never been service connected, didn't even know what service connection is, and he's constantly calling me, asking me for, hey, how do I go about doing this, that, the other? And he said, Sam, the biggest thing is they want me to tell them all these things that I'm struggling with, but my time while I was in the military, that's just something you don't talk about. So it's very much of a double-edged sword. While you're in, it's kind of like button up, shut up, like all these things are a sign of weakness, I guess.
Yeah.
And you only get these certain services or benefits when you get out, and you have to bring it up. And a lot of these guys and girls are kind of, I guess you want to say, quote unquote, trained to not talk about it. So that's another thing, I guess they're, if you want to call it ego or whatever, is in their own way. And they kind of have to overcome this way of living for so many years. Like, hey, I don't want to talk about this. I can't talk about this, or else I'm seen as weak, to where now it's okay. You have to be vulnerable, and you have to kind of talk about this stuff so we can address these issues.
Well, that's a little bit of self-preservation too. If I let the cat out of the bag, I don't know if I'll be able to be okay with that. So if I just suck it up, buttercup, swallow it down, and as a matter of fact, I'd say probably the majority of veterans. It's a whole new thing. I'll tell you about it later. Marine veterans. But the majority of veterans I met would rather not talk about their service. In almost any category, they just would rather not talk about it. Is that all part of that training, that kind of bravado that you have to survive?
There's a lot of different variables in it. I think the newer generation is more apt to talking about it. You get a lot of post 9/11 vets who are able to kind of say, like, hey, this is what I've seen, this is what I struggled with. And I mean, nowadays it's pretty easy to spot like a post 9/11 vet. I mean, like tattoos are definitely in, but you'll see a lot of guys with sleeves and stuff. I mean, I myself have sleeves. I have dog tags on my arms. Like a lot of people kind of throw their unit, their squadron, whatever, like on their body, and you can kind of be like, okay, I can tell by the way that guy or girl is walking and talking that they served. And those individuals, I would say, are more apt to kind of talk about it. But it also depends on like what unit they were in. Were they a rough and tough type of unit, or were they, simply like a mechanic? And they're a little bit more apt to talk about it. I would say the hardest thing within my experience that I've seen is having prior generations talking about it. Like my favorite veterans, I would probably say, are like my Vietnam vets, because they're very much like, they wear their heart on their sleeves. They're hard asses. Like they don't want to take nothing from nobody. And we get these vets who come to our facility, and the first few days they're really rough around the edges. They're cursing out like everybody left and right, and they're like, "Give me my meds. You're not going to tell me what to do." Like they're very much stuck in their old ways. And after a few weeks of kind of showing them a little bit of love and being like, okay, these are the things that you want. These are the things that I'm seeing. Like I know you're a tough guy, a tough girl, but like lean on me a little bit. Let me show you how I got through it. They tend to start opening up. And by the time their 30 days is over with a residential treatment, whether they leave or not, or they step down to a lower level of care, 9 times out of 10, I see these guys like walking up and down the hall, like waving at the staff, like they act like they run the place. Like they're the best neighbor there, giving people hugs and everything like that. And to see that transition from them being so close to being open and loving and caring, it's why I do what I do.
Wow. I've had some experience with that bravado. I used to go to my grandfather's reunions for the 43rd Cavalry, and and they actually made me an honorary member. I got a little plaque and the thing. It was so cool. But I was hanging out with these guys, and they were all my grandfather's age, and we go on these conferences in Chicago and we go out to play golf. And there was always, one guy, Bill Persinger, I'll never forget him. He'd go in there and say, "I'm a veteran. What are you going to do for me?" And they say, "It's $38.50 to play golf." He goes, "You didn't hear me. I'm a veteran. What are you going to do for me?" And he would start arguing. It was Fred Billiard, Bill Persinger, Red Poteet, these guys. And they're standing in there and they're saying, "Listen, we fought with Patton. You send out your best. We'll see what you got. Give us." And every time we ended up playing golf for free. And it was beautiful. But they had this bravado about them and this pride in what they did. And I know that, with just all the turmoil and the trauma and everything, since it's just gotten so bad, but I'm glad you guys are doing the right things. I'm glad you guys are involved.
Thank you.
Now, if somebody wants to know more about Banyan, and is it at all of their sites? Is it at a single site? What do they have going on for vets?
Sure. I mean, Banyan is a national company. I mean, we have facilities as far away from here as Alaska. So, we do work
Dude, you ever
nationally.
get to go up there?
I haven't been up there, but I want to.
We should be up there. We got to tour that one. Make it happen.
Yes, it's a beautiful facility, and they do a lot of really good work up there. And it's specifically for that facility is specifically for military and veterans.
Really?
And so that's why they opened it. Now, has it expanded and we've taken some civilians? Yes, but the reason we opened it was because of the need for military and veteran treatment in Alaska. And so it depends on the location. Banyan's got about to be, I think, the 17th location opening up in Colorado next month. So every location is a little bit different as far as what they offer for veterans. All of them are approved to work with veterans through the VA and through what's called the Community Care Network. But every site you go to will look a little bit different depending on the number of veterans we have and that we're serving at. Some of them will look more like tracks. Some of them will look more like specific programs. So it's definitely specific to the location. But I can tell you that the facilities are trained to work with veterans when it comes to trauma, when it comes to kind of life skills, when it comes to being able to be ready to leave treatment and go back to their real life setting, as I like to call it. And our facilities will also work to help them with benefits and things that they need to do with the VA while they're in care, and also when they leave. I know some other facilities do that, but not all facilities do. A lot of them will focus only on the substance abuse or mental health while they're there. Banyan wants to treat the whole person, the whole veteran. And so we want them to be set up for success, not just in their sobriety, but with the other aspects of their health care, with their family, and all the things that they have going on.
Well, with all the different levels of care that you have for them and the different styles of care.
Yep.
So if you're talking to a veteran, you don't have to say you can only go to this one. You could look and say, you know what, you do really well in this one.
Sure.
So you get to, I mean, that's really awesome.
It is. It's great to have a number of locations. What's challenging about that right there is a lot of times we're dependent on the VA about where they will authorize the veteran to go.
Yeah.
And so we might say, hey, like you live in Florida, but our facility in Pennsylvania is going to be a better fit for you. Our team is really good, and a lot of the VAs are really good to say, all right, we're going to authorize care in Pennsylvania. But there are times where they'll say, hey, we're not going to provide care outside of this area, so we're only going to approve for this facility. So,
but you guys put in the effort to try to get them the best thing possible.
Always.
And I'm glad that sometimes they at least work for you.
Sometimes it does. And we don't, a lot of times what we do, a veteran will call, a lot of times lost. Sam mentioned it before, like not knowing what it is to be service connected or how to go about monitoring navigating that process with the VA. While we can't do it for them, we have the team to tell them, hey, this is really what you need to do to advocate for yourself, to get signed up, to ask for what you want in the community. Like I said, we can't get on the phone and say to the VA, hey, give Sam this, but we can tell Sam, hey, this is what you should be. This is what you're right. These are your rights. Go in, and that you should advocate for yourself because that's what your rights are. Now, whether they do it or not, some of that's out of our control. But we do our best to give the veterans the tools that they need to be successful, whether or not they end up coming to us or not. The preference is that they come to us, but at the end of the day, as long as they get care, that's a win, right? That's a win.
And that's what we should be focused on.
Yeah.
Is certainly we want to take care of you because our hearts we want to,
and we believe we're the best place to do that.
We believe we're the best, yeah. But you also got to sometimes say, listen, I get it. If you need to stay in this area, do this thing, we'll find something for you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just dump them.
Exactly.
Which is enough of. They've already had enough of being dumped and pushed aside. We don't need to do that anymore. Now you mentioned something. I'm going to let Sam pick up on this. How important is the aftercare when you treat someone with an addiction or alcoholism or even some mental health? It's easy to say, okay, let's go. You can go here. You can go to 12-step groups. You can go to this good sober home, and you can do all this stuff. And it's pretty standard at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There's some extra levels with veterans, isn't there?
I would say that the aftercare is probably the most important part for their continual care and the success rate of their recovery. It's easy to get somebody clean, kind of throw them in a room, lock away the key, make sure you're feeding them and stuff like that. If you're going to go about it,
that's how I raised all three of my kids.
like if we're just going to be honest, making sure they get through the physical withdrawal is the easy part. It's changing their mind and changing their perspective afterwards.
Yeah.
Which is why when they're with us, whatever level of care that they're in, we're going to get them plugged into everything they need to at the VA, and then anything they need to within the community. So like I myself personally, whenever I speak with the veterans, I'll ask them like, hey, what are your plans after you leave here? Do you need additional help with housing? Do you need are you interested in getting plugged in with the Wounded Warrior Project? Are you interested in getting a service dog? Yes. Okay. Here are all my contacts that can help you get a service dog. Let's get you started on the process with that. And more importantly, if we can't get you down to a lower level of care within Banyan, we're going to get you that level of care within the VA. So we'll make their appointment set up with their therapist, with their life coach over there at the VA. We'll get them plugged in with all the appointments necessary for them to succeed with their care afterwards. And, whatever organization they're wanting to go into, like, even if it's something I've never heard about and they're like, hey, I've heard about, X, Y, and Z. Can you do some digging for me? Absolutely. No sweat off my back. Like, let's get you plugged into whatever it is you're needed to.
That's, we need more services for our veterans, but though even the services we have, they're not represented enough so that people know they're even out there.
Agreed.
We got veterans coming back and not realizing. I talked to some friends at United Way. They're trying to help do that the same way with housing, helping them with housing. So there's a lot of great organizations. Do you guys work with other places too? Do you have like, hey, let me call my friend over at this organization and get you going over there? Do you guys have good relationships with other veteran programs?
Absolutely. We do our best to work with other community providers. So other people who are approved to work with veterans. That could be other treatment centers, whether it's substance abuse and mental health, or it could be other areas where they can treat their medical needs. We work with them, but we also work with a lot of nonprofits in the community, both locally here in Florida and across the country, because again, there's going to be needs that come up for a veteran that we can't meet. And so we want to have somebody to be able to say, hey, this is who you need to speak to. We want to be able to give our case managers the most number of resources we can in the community to be able to help a veteran and a civilian when they leave to be able to be successful. So long answer, yes. And we're always looking for more. Because again, there's nonprofits that start all the time. And there are too many to have relationships with all of them. So we do our best to continue to keep up, but we're always looking for those relationships and to build on what we already have.
I know One Brother, One Sister is proud to work with you guys and in our mission and help you with your mission.
Thank you.
And again, I'm going to mention it again because they deserve credit to the Veterans Administration, the VA, the Veterans Hospital especially. That's a pain in the ass to have a relationship with them. I know it's a pain in the butt. It's so much easier to just say, geez, you're maddening and walk, but you guys keep that relationship and you fight for it because it's important that you keep your people connected to the VA services, right?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, that was good. Both of you.
No, absolutely. And I think with the VAs locally and across the country, there are so many good people that work for the VA.
Yeah.
And when the frustrations are had, it's not the people that are on the front lines who are making those frustrations happen. It's policies that are happening. And so a lot of that's out of their control. So we continue to do our best to keep those relationships strong and stay ready in the community for when they're ready to use us.
It's a government-run agency.
Exactly.
They're screwed from the beginning. I mean, but you're right. There are great people, and that's what it's all about. You make those connections with people, and you can move mountains. Sam, you've been with them for a short period of time. But you've been around them for a while.
Correct.
And I've seen you both happy with what you're doing and unhappy with what you're doing and all the things in between. How's Sam doing today, and how proud of you to be doing work with Banyan?
I love it. Sam today is doing very well. I guess he's a
big guy. We want to keep him happy. You need food. You need something.
I am getting a little bit hungry. So we'll see. No, I love working with Banyan. I worked with them previously, and whenever I left to kind of venture off into my own endeavors, it was a very hard Band-Aid to rip off. And the only reason I did it was to see, okay, given the offer that I was given, am I able to kind of do this? Am I able to create something from the ground up? Lo and behold, I was. So, okay, I know. But leaving Banyan in the first place, for one, I thoroughly believe in the program. I love what they do. The team of individuals that I work with is phenomenal. I don't think I've ever worked with a company with such a passion for helping veterans, active duty military, first responders. I mean, you name it. And a lot of, as Matt stated before, a lot of the people who are on our team are veterans. They are first responders, so they know the struggle with it. Whenever I do have those quote unquote, not so good days, it has nothing to do with Banyan. It's more of, I'm just completely dumbfounded with, okay, this is what is happening to our veterans out there in the community. And I try not to take it personally, but it's very hard, having struggled with it myself. I mean, it's no secret that I'm in recovery, that I, have turned to the VA for help and, was kind of let down by it. So I've made it my personal mission to, if I do see a veteran, active duty military member, first responder, whoever the case, civilian, I could care less. If they are struggling, let's find a solution for that struggle. Let's get you the help that you need. And when unfortunately veterans have to jump through, multiple hoops to kind of get the care that they need. That's the frustrating part, because
Yeah.
typically when I'm coming across them, they're barely standing. I mean, they need help immediately. And to tell them, hey, we can get you help, but it's going to have to take a few more weeks. Like, well, I don't know if this individual does have a few weeks left, you know? So that is the only kind of really frustrating part with it.
It's a different world now. I mean, it's not, back in the old days, back in the 40s and in the 50s, when they're writing the big book and they had the original Alcoholics Anonymous, they actually had a statement in their text, in their book, that said, if you're not convinced, go try some controlled drinking.
Yeah.
Could you imagine telling somebody with an addiction problem, why don't you go try some more and see how, you don't do that.
Yeah, you can't.
Not these
So
days.
any delay is a dangerous delay.
Absolutely.
And any roadblock can become like a tombstone to somebody. So it's important that we have guys like you doing the jobs that you do. I mean, you're smart guys, and I could see you owning a business and you in the WWE and doing your thing. No, I'm kidding. I'm just teasing you.
Love
You guys could do other things.
Yeah.
This is so frustrating and maddening sometimes, not because of any organization, but just because we're fighting a disease. We're fighting trauma. We're fighting addiction. We're fighting mental health. We're fighting alcoholism. It's not a battle where I could see us ever really winning, and we're fighting it every day. I mean, are there times when you just say, what is it that keeps you going personally? What keeps you going?
Seeing the next person get it. Right. Again, we're not going to save everybody. We can't. Everybody that comes into treatment. I mean, Banyan's a big organization. I mean, they have, I believe, over 800 beds nationally.
Wow.
And the veteran population is a small portion of those. But to see one person who wasn't going to get the help, or maybe wouldn't have gotten the help through the VA be able to come and get the help and succeed, especially considering the people that we see committing suicide out there, and the people that we see that are homeless, or the people that we see losing their families for a variety of reasons, like seeing that one person succeed and get it, and knowing that person's probably going to be helping the next person that needs help. That's what I mean, for me, keeps it going forward.
It's a big win, because you think, what if I didn't get up and go to work this morning?
Yeah,
and I missed that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that we're so important, but we're a piece of a very important puzzle. And Sam, same for you. I mean, there's times when I know it's frustrating. It's frustrating, especially you've been fighting for veterans' rights, even beyond a lot of this stuff. What is it that keeps you going? When you're kind of really out of gas and you're done and you're like so frustrated? What's the thought that keeps you going?
I think Matt really hit it on the head. What he stated earlier, no matter where an individual goes to, as long as they're getting the help, that's a win. And I think that is probably the thing that keeps me going the most. Would I want all veterans to come to Banyan? Absolutely. Right. I would love that. Not only for Banyan, but for them and for myself. I love interacting with my fellow brothers and sisters, active duty, not active duty, whatever. I don't do this because I do this. The best way I can put it is I do this as it's a calling to me. I don't really feel like I had a choice in it. I love what I do, and I would not be doing anything else. But at the end of the day, if I can't get a veteran to come to Banyan, I'm not just going to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Click, hang up the phone. I'm going to get them in touch with somebody who can help them, and I'm not going to rest until I do. No matter where they end up going, no matter what it is they're needing, whether it's treatment, whether it's housing, whatever the case may be, getting service connected, as long as they are getting that service, to me, that's a win. And there's no other feeling.
Everyone out there, no matter how you see them on the street or where you see them in their life, is somebody's mother, father, brother, sister, son, daughter, husband, or wife. Everybody counts. Everybody's somebody. And some of those people have done great deeds for our country by serving in the military. It is a disservice for us to step over them when they're down and out. It is a disservice for us to look the other way just because we don't like the way they look or smell. It's time to start making phone calls, reaching out, and getting help for people. And that's what you guys do. And I applaud you for your service and for your service as well. You don't have to be a veteran to serve our country, and you do every day with what you do, and we appreciate it.
Thanks.
So if somebody wants to get a hold of Banyan, how do they do it? What's their website?
Please.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to banyantreatmentcenters.com. We do
There you go,
have
banyantreatmentcenters.com.
there are links on there for specifically the military and veterans and recovery program. So they can go to banyan.com also, but you're probably going to remember Banyan Centers.
Banyantreatmentcenters.com. Very simple. And look at all the things they do. Don't just look at one thing. Look at all the things they do.
Yep.
Now, if somebody wanted to reach out to you specifically and talk to you, do you want to give them your number? Or?
Sure. My phone number is 561-568-8669. You can reach me on that 24/7.
Excellent. And for a good time, call Sam at, well, no, I'm kidding.
If you want to get suplexed. If you want to reach me, you can contact me at 863-845-0386. I'm on Facebook. Just look up Sam Razmi. LinkedIn, same thing, Sam Razmi. I mean, you'll see all my posts, where I'm at, what I'm doing. Always feel free to reach out to me.
Gentlemen, thank you so very much for taking the time to be here today, man.
Thanks for having us.
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So check out Banyan Treatment Centers and ask questions if you're not sure. If maybe somebody that you love is a veteran and they've been suffering and you want to just ask questions, you'd certainly want them to call you, right?
Always.
Yeah, because the only question that's stupid is the one you don't ask. So make sure you ask questions, and maybe there's some help that you can get your loved one. But don't wait. If you see somebody, get them help today. I want to remind everybody, please like this show, subscribe to the channel, and share this with your friends, and leave comments. Your comments are important to us, and we'd like to know what you think about the Veterans Voice podcast. And if you'd like to be a guest, certainly let us know. Just leave it in the comments. For now, I'm Scott Jones. I want to thank Matt Hirsch, Sam Razmi from Banyan Treatment Centers for joining us and doing the great work they do with our veterans. And, of course, all the people out there who need help. The work they do is fantastic. We'll catch you next time. Take care now.